Guys, Threelly here. Welcome to my channel. On this channel, we make videos around technology tips, career advice, and inspiration, helping you elevate your career, earn more money so you can live a better life. I'm gonna call some years in history. Usually, most of them will be in history. And what I want you to do is to tell me what exactly came to your mind when I mentioned those years. All right. So, are you ready? Okay, so we're going to start with the very first one, and that would be the year 1776. Some of you guys will know this very easily for those of you that are in the United States. So 1776. All right, so the next one is going to be 1865. The year 1865. What's the big thing that for most people comes to mind when we talk about the year 1865? All right, and I'm going to go fast with these other ones. 1914, what comes to mind? 1929, what comes to mind? 2001, what comes to mind? 2008, what comes to mind? All right, and then we'll go to the infamous 2020. What comes to mind? 2020 is one of those years where you can look at it today and feel dejected and feel like, politics is crazy, the economy is crazy, everything seems crazy. But we cannot deny the fact that all of this, a majority of this, is because of what's happening with COVID. COVID-19 is really the big characteristics of 2020. Now, we don't know how far or where this is going to lead us to, but so far, if you're talking about 2020, you're talking to somebody from 20 years from now, 30 years from now, maybe 100 years from now, I'm pretty sure that 2020 they're gonna remember it for COVID-19. So it's just one of those things that we cannot escape talking about. But what I wanted to do today was to share with you this very interesting article that I came across. And this article is really something that Google is doing, and it's not just Google. As a matter of fact, a lot of companies are responding to what we're seeing today because, when COVID started, it really started as a pandemic, but right now I can argue that, or most people will argue that it's literally changing the way we live, the way we behave, the way we interact, the way society fundamentally is structured, right? Whether we like it or not, it's just the reality. So, and what we're seeing is that a lot of technology companies like Google and just many other companies, Microsoft, Amazon's, they're responding to this with technological solutions. And what Google is doing here is very interesting, and this is what I wanted to share. So what Google is doing is they are adding Google Maps. They're adding a layer into Google Maps that allows you to see COVID hotspots around you. Okay. We know Google for search. A lot of people know Google for search. Google actually even owns YouTube. But a lot of people also know Google for their maps, right? If I'm going from point A to point B, I'm very fond of using Google Maps. As a matter of fact, that's my default maps. All right. And so being able to add layers on top is very, very helpful. Or at least it could be very, very helpful, right? Think about it. Guys, just think about it. If you're going from point A to point B, right? What you need, of course, you need a map. And what does the map do? The map is going to show you how to go. But guess what's also important, right? Especially for those of us who live in the northern hemisphere, where weather is a very, very important factor. If I'm supposed to leave from point A and go to point B, okay, one of the things that I might want to look at my route, but I might also want to know what is the weather condition in point B. All right, because I don't want to leave from my house and it's sunny or just a little bit light rain, and I go over to point B 3-4 hours away and there is a thunder, hailstorm, snow over there, and I did not take the time to check my weather forecast, and that would just be a very bad day, right? Because depending on what the weather situation is in that location, you might prepare differently. All right, that's what weather forecast does for us. That's what a lot of people wake up in the morning, you turn on the news on your local channel, they're telling you it's going to be rainy, it's going to be sunny, this location has rain, this location has snow, this location is good, this location here is sunny. We've all been accustomed to that. All right, okay, but guess what's the rain we all have today? What's that weather condition that's pouring down all of us today? Guess what? It's COVID, and it's the spread of COVID. And so now it's making sense that companies like Google, and I'm going to dive here in a second, are responding to this with technological solutions. Think about it like a weather forecast for COVID. So if you're going to leave your house, you can check your weather information, but also you can check the COVID situation. Is there a lot of COVID where you're going to? What's the impact of COVID in that area where you're going to? And based on that, guess what? You might decide that, well, you might want to postpone that trip. You might not even want to take the trip at all, or you might want to be extra cautious if you're going into a COVID hot zone. All right. If you don't know it, a lot of us usually have lived our lives without even knowing it, and we just travel around and just go to one place or another place, right? But now we're going to that situation where there's going to be an additional dimension to check when going to a location. You can check the weather, or you can check the health situation in that area. It's more specifically COVID. For someone like me, I travel internationally. I go to Africa. I've been to Europe. I've been to other places. One of the things that you, even prior to COVID, that you have to do when you travel abroad is get your vaccinations and understand the health situation in that area. Right, there might be some areas where there's a lot of malaria, and if you go in there, you want to take precautions. You want to, dress accordingly. You want to get your mosquito net. You want to get a lot of things. Okay, now just take that and bring it to the whole world. If you're going from my house to the mall, just one county down the road or one city down the road, I might want to check what's the COVID situation there, because this thing changes by the day. So a solution like this, it's really one of those solutions where technology companies are responding. They are responding. They're using technological solutions to help us all. All right. So I'm gonna leave this article in the description below. But basically, if you think about it, when you open up Google Maps, and I'm gonna show it here in a second. When you open up Google Maps, we can come to Google Maps. We open up Google Maps, you bring up your maps. What we can do here is, normally you can browse around and you can see your maps, okay? But what you can do here is you can click on this layer. They've added a new layer, and this is what that article is talking about. So they've added a new layer, and that layer is called COVID-19 info. All right, so you can click on COVID-19 info. Okay, I'm sure there's some notes there. All right, I click on OK. Now it layers the COVID-19 situation across the map for me. I believe this is mostly for the US now. I don't know if it's across the world, but actually it's across the world. Yeah, yep, it's across the world. But let's go to the US. Let's go to the US. All right. So what we can do is, let's say I was visiting Texas, for example. I can zoom in to Texas. All right, and I can see the situation almost. I don't know if it's by count. Let's actually take North Dakota. Yeah, North Dakota here. You can see if I'm in Minnesota, guess what? It's not, it doesn't look as bad. But if I just go one state over to Wisconsin, guess what? That's red. If I go to North Dakota, it's red, and it actually shows me 59.2 and increasing. All right, so if I'm living in Minnesota and I was going to take a trip to North Dakota, now I can be more careful. It's almost like the weather forecast. It's raining in North Dakota. Make sure you're prepared. Get your mask. Don't shake hands. I mean, that's what we should already be doing, but you might need the additional reminder. All right, and I believe you can actually zoom in by city, county, whatever the boundaries are. McLean County 62 and steady. Okay, and you can actually zoom in. Let's go back to even in Minnesota here, you can see that it doesn't look red, but once you zoom in, you can see that this area up here in Threelly seems to have more cases. Anoka County seems to have more cases than if you went to like Rice County. All right, and now based on that information, you can be more proactive and be more careful. All right, so I think it's a very powerful a tool that Google is doing. Some people might talk about privacy, but I don't think there's really any privacy to be worried about here. But just that additional dimension, additional layer of information for you to arm yourself and protect yourself. We know COVID-19 has literally turned the world upside down for a lot of people. A lot of people have lost their life, which is just really sad and unfortunate. But with things like this, if we can all use it and be more careful, take care of ourselves, take care of our loved one. Ultimately, that's technology doing good. All right, that's technology.